Hi, we wanted to update you again on how things are going. Some big things happened recently. I left my career, which I think most of you are pretty well aware of. But one of the things that happened shortly after that was a message that I preached at my home church. And I think both Jade and I were kind of impacted by that message. It was on the peace of God and how you need to really be jumping in the deep end of the pool. You need to be in over your head to experience the peace of God in its fullness. And it didn't occur to me until I was really close to preaching that's actually where we are. We have been put in over our head, and we have to rely on the peace of God right now. Well, some things have happened over the last week and a half since I jumped. Our family together was kind of dunked in the deep end of the pool when I left my career, and we didn't even fully understand that had happened, but God saw it and knew that was out of obedience and submission to His will for our lives, and He has responded. So we wanted to go through and kind of list off some of the things that God has done, not just to glorify His name, but also to challenge you to jump in the deep end of the pool, not just so that maybe you can get in on some of these blessings, but so that you can experience the relationship with God that we have been blessed to experience. So we're going to do our best to remember all of them, but remember I said that there are a ridiculous amount of blessings, and we've actually laughed a couple of times wondering why this keeps happening.
Well, 3 days after Nathan left his job and we threw ourselves into full-time missionary work, which what that means is we depend on our donors, our partners in ministry in the church to provide for us so that we can eat and get gas in our car and things like that until we move to Uganda. And then of course, when we're in Uganda, we rely on that there as well. But 3 days after Nathan quit his job, a sweet sister in Christ who happens to be parenting her child by herself, she came over, and we thought maybe we were just going to chat with her about life and encourage one another. And she gets tears in her eyes, and her voice starts to shake a little bit, and we're like, what's happening? And she pulls out $1,000 out of her pocket. And Nathan and I were like, what in the world just happened? Like, of all people, to that, I think we as society would say, it's okay for you to have a savings account. You're parenting on your own with the Lord's help. Yeah. Keep that savings big and plush. Of all people, like, she handed us $1,000 to jumpstart our what we needed to move to Uganda and to bless us. And the timing of that was just totally God.
Yeah. And
she did it just joyfully, was excited to do it. She said for a few months she kind of wrestled with God about it. You know, it's her money, she said. But God just made it clear to her that that was for us. And she went over and above after that. She was like, a couple days later, she said that she thought she did her good thing, you know, that God totally blessed that, and she was excited about that, but that God further challenged her to give us more from the overtime that He had provided for her. And I was like, it's like, it makes sense in the kingdom, like in God's economy that makes sense, but like in the world it's like, that's the stupidest thing. Like, what are you doing? So that was one really big thing that happened last week.
I remember when I woke up that morning, it's 8 o'clock, and I kind of looked at Jay, and well, here we go. And here this lady comes at 10, and all this stuff that Jay just mentioned happens, and she left and walked out the door, and I looked at her and I thought, but that didn't take long. That was really the first missing paycheck. It came in 2 hours from me leaving my career, so that was that was amazing.
Yeah.
What are some other things?
A couple other things that are really cool that happened. 2 of our current supporters who are giving monthly, just randomly, not randomly, God clearly spoke to them, were like, hey, we want to up our pledge. I'm like, I would never ask a current donor to up their support. Like, we're already so grateful for what they're doing. Yeah. And then they just out of nowhere were just like, hey, this was this week. We want to up our support. one lady was like, God's been speaking to me about upping my monthly amount. And I was kind of going back and forth with them, like, why, I can't do that. And she said the next day, her and her son went to go get lunch, to eat out. And it was about the same amount that she would have upped her support to. And she realized, okay, I can go out and eat lunch, me and my son, and I'm okay to do that, but why am I not okay to up my support? So that was pretty cool.
Last week, I think it was Wednesday morning, I was told about a church that's currently looking for a pastor, and they needed some people to fill the pulpit. And I was excited to help, but God's blessed us with a full schedule, and I didn't have a lot of dates to offer, so I said, you know what, I've got this Sunday, and I've got Easter. That's about it. So they asked me to come this Sunday. I show up, and the sanctuary was beautiful, but I was expecting something different. When I saw the sanctuary, I guess I just thought this was going to be a smaller crowd, maybe an older crowd. And so I was preparing the message to preach to that kind of a group. It comes to about time for service to start, and I was downstairs in a prayer meeting, came upstairs, and I'm looking around like, hey, now this is not what I thought I was going to see. There were probably 40 or 50 young families, new Christians, new believers, people that were seeking, and they were energetic. We got to prayer time. He said, now let's pray. And when he said that, it was like he gave permission for everybody to go to the altar. Half the congregation went down the altar, and I'm sitting in the front row getting ready to preach, and I'm kind of scrunching up in my pew there because I didn't have room, and I thought, man, this is fantastic. They started speaking their problems and their thanks out loud. So from in the congregation, you could just hear what everybody was going through. And then there were immediately saints of the church over top of them praying for them. So I'm getting ready to preach. I'm like, man, I don't even know if I can top prayer time. I think that's how preachers need to feel.
Yeah.
You need to, people in your churches, when it gets to prayer time, you need to intimidate the pastor so that when he gets up to preach, he is intimidated by the prayer time. That needs to be the middle. That's awesome. So I got up to preach, went through my message. It was actually the same message, the peace of God message. So at the end of the service, I was in the back kind of greeting people, and a board member came up to me and said that they had kind of put together a spontaneous meeting in the front, had voted and decided to add our family to the church budget.
Never has happened, ever.
That was not why I went to the church.
No.
I did mention that we were missionaries. I had the table set up, but I didn't ask them for anything. I was just kind of helping them fill in with the pulpit. And so I called Jade afterwards, and we were just kind of floored that it was an empty week as of Wednesday, and now it's a supporting church that's close. I mean, it's within an hour of our home here in Marion. So that's yet another thing where we just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I was sharing with Nathan the other night that people's generosity and what God has done in the last 10 days has been very overwhelming. It's like a weight of responsibility. Here's a single mom who's giving over and above what to me seems required. I mean, she's just over and above blessing God and blessing us and this church, and people upping their support. And Sophie's teacher just randomly was like, hey, I'm gonna support you monthly. Like, what? And it just feels heavy. Like, it's so awesome. And there's been moments where we laugh, where we shout. And then truthfully, I lay in bed and it feels the weight of responsibility to be a good steward, like I've never known before. It is just such an awesome privilege that God has put us all together like this. And I guess in this moment, I just want to share, we feel that weight of responsibility to use what God has, the amount that God has told you to give to us in a responsible way that glorifies Him. And we don't take it lightly. We don't take $5 a month lightly, and we don't take $1,000 check lightly. Like, we just feel right now kind of that heaviness.
We're honored. We really are. We wake up every day and we're honored to serve our church in this way. Just one building, not one group of people in one building, but lots and lots of groups of people that we've met, very special people. Many of you have had conversations with us that we still reflect on, we still talk about, and we're honored that you have partnered with us and have done this ministry with us. And it feels like there's some separation because we don't see you every week, but you are a very close part of what we do. And someday we will have a chance to all celebrate this work together in a more close way. But right now, we got something special going on, so we're thankful.
Yeah. So what happens next is in about 3 weeks, we're going to put our house on the market. We hope to have a buyer and close by August. We have a 3-week training in Colorado in August, and then Lord willing, if all of our funding is in by August, then we will move to Uganda, all 6 of us, for 2 years, to begin with, 2 years, starting in September. So we're really excited. It's a big steps we're taking, but we truly feel your prayers and clearly feel your generosity.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.